After the drama of last night, Chris Melling coming through that very high quality final against John Chambers to lift yet another title and continue his winning run of winning titles in every season of Ultimate Pool. We get ourselves back underway this morning with Pro Series 8, second of the two pro events of the weekend. Mark Shepherd and Tony Holgate with you once again. This match we've got up first is the last 16 tie between Kyle Cope and Phil Harrison. Third match for both players in this tournament. They've got 2 wins under their belts yesterday. We'll be playing all the way through to a final at around 10 o'clock tonight. A lot of action still to come today. We've got action all the way from the last 16 to the final of this main Pro Series 8. Also got Women's Pro Series 8. And as time allows, we'll be bringing some bonus coverage of Next Gen and some of the other series. In years gone by, Sundays at tour weekends could be quite quiet as the tournament's wrapped up, but not so anymore. So many matches still underway. The professional events, the challenger events, and a load of other categories. Team events, disability series, Next Gen series. Decent start this for Phil. Kind of what you want, just a nice steady position. Just to warm yourself up, put a few balls. Such a consistent performer, Phil Harrison. Always close to the top of the rankings, currently sitting at about number 10. Early substitute in the commentary box. Simon Webb, in fact, steps in to join me for this first match.
Oh, had you already announced Tony in? It's Tony's. He's going to go get the teas in instead, so I'm jumping in. Well, that's okay by me. Looking forward to seeing how Phil is going to play. Not played a good one there.
The only issue with this clearance is always been the 8 ball, but it shouldn't be a problem.
Needs to keep going. Oh, it gets there. Beautiful pace. Thought I was going to be short. You just see how quick the table's playing.
Yeah, that ball just carried on running. This should suit Phil, one of the best players in the world for controlling the cue ball. Pretty much any shot is possible on this table if you hit it right. So, very straightforward start to our first match of the day. Phil Harrison gets the first chance and he converts the first chance.
Yeah, it gives us an opportunity to talk about the state of play. We had a couple of early morning matches. The 2 finalists from last night, John Chambers and Chris Melling, had to get their last 32 matches done. In fact, John not feeling good this morning, so he pulled out. John McAllister then comes through, and Chris Melling continued his fine form, beating 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗏 8-3. Means the last 16 lineup reads like this. Jimmy Croxton and Aidan Hughes. They're playing over on table 3 in the first frame. Ryan Pisani has won up over Aaron Davies on table 4. This is match number 3. So the winner of this match will play the winner of Eddie Barker and Ben Doyle, and it is Ben Doyle, the young Irishman, that has won the first frame there. That's the top half of the draw. Bottom half, we will see here on this table, John McAllister taking on Chris Melling. Josh Kane will take on Shane Thompson. Tom Jones versus Luke Gilbert, and Jaden Billingham versus Declan Brennan. That is your lineup in the last 16, and we'll see it down to a conclusion by the end of today, with the final scheduled for about 10 o'clock. I got all that in before, while the balls were being racked. How about that?
Very efficient start.
My timing's on point this morning at Sunday morning.
May only be 10:15 in the morning, but you're up and ready for it.
Coffee helps.
Should be a fun day. Just saying before you join that days gone by, Sundays could be quite quiet as people started leaving, but very much not so now. So many events still to play to a conclusion today. Story about the #1 ranking is still in play. Declan Brennan hasn't yet overtaken Tom Cousins, but Tom Cousins has succumbed to a second first round exit of the weekend. Lost to Zach Cooper in event 7. Jimmy Croxton did for him in event 8. So Declan Brennan does still have it in his own hands to secure the #1 ranking by the end of the weekend. Not as straightforward a position as the one that Phil had in the last frame, but nonetheless, good chance for Kyle to get started.
Not the start that he was looking for. One really good shot there was going to make it easy. And he missed the pot by a distance and therefore missed the cue ball by a distance. But hasn't left an easy layout for Phil, but they're all in the same area of the table. And the first thing he did when he got to the table was look at the 8 ball. Does it go bottom left corner? So I think he's going to be aggressive here.
Phil lost at the last 32 stage of Pro Series 7. Phil Parkin coming through 8-6 in that match. It's his third match of this tournament, so already doing better in the second one. That's the nice thing with this format, of course. It doesn't really matter what happens in your first event. The second one is completely independent, so you can just go again. Kyle Cope lost in his first round of event 7 to the eventual finalist John Chambers. So he had a pretty short stay in that event. He'll be looking to do better this time around. So that's the loose balls out the way. Now Phil's got the challenge of unlocking the 3 that are tied up.
I wonder if the top 2 are a plant set to the corner. Well, that answers that question.
And with that one shot, he's got everything open.
That's worked out well. That could have gone wrong, that can. I suspect he was thinking about a fuller contact and pushing it towards the top left corner. But he's landed pretty plumb on it top right. Maybe a turn too much angle, but I'm sure he can control it. He certainly can.
Just coming around to see if that 8 ball will pot clean to the bottom left. Assume the answer was yes, because he didn't consider any other options.
Oh my word. What have we just seen?
Complete miscue. Didn't look like there was too much to be done with that. Just trying to screw over to the left-hand side cushion and leave a straightish 8 ball. Didn't even get close. Horrible feeling when you miscue like that. It just saps your confidence.
Yeah, and the difference it can make in a match like this. I was just thinking, as I was expecting him to fully make that easy and round out the frame, I was thinking, what a smooth start for Phil. He looked sharp this morning, but, well, assuming Kyle does take these out, there's no reason why he won't. On 1, he'll be over the moon, and Phil's got plenty to think about early.
Yeah, the scores might be level, but it's a very different 1-1.
Yeah.
From Kyle's point of view, he'll be delighted that that's the scoreline. Very level-headed guy, Kyle Cope. Never really looks fazed by anything. Just gratefully accepting this surprise gift. Expected to be 2-0 down when he next came to the table, but with this 8 ball, he does make it 1-all.
Yeah. And he'll be very, very happy to be 1-all. He will have noticed how on point Phil was looking till that moment. Kyle will have been in John Chambers' corner last night. Would have been very disappointed for him. John into his fourth final with 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 and coming up short, but pretty dramatic circumstances deciding frame against Chris Melling. He'll be back, of course. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, though, one of the rising stars in the game. Huge fan of Kyle. I think he's got a big, big future. He's already showing that with some good performances. Semi-final best run for Kyle so far this year. As we dip into the Ben Doyle, Eddie Barker game. You can watch this one on Table 2. This one is available free on YouTube right now. Luke Terry and Nick Finn on commentary for that one as well.
Pretty good way to put the disappointment of the last frame behind him. Good break from Phil. Yellow ball's looking quite promising for him.
Which is handy because he can't see a red to pot one. Only problem with the yellows is the 8-ball. If he could see a red, he probably would go reds, I think, assuming the red passes yellow bottom left clean. But the yellows themselves are a nice layout.
Important not to let the one miscue carry over to another frame. Right? Sometimes it can distract you, but it was kind of a slow shot. He's unlikely to have done any damage to his cue. It's just one of those ones he'll have to put behind him. So he plays a good developing shot to get the 8-ball out. Example of going after the one problem on the table early on. Now everything in open play for him. Real spectrum, isn't it, in this last 16 lineup? We've got players with the experience of Phil Harrison who've been at the top of the game for 20, if not 30 years. And we've got youngsters like Jaden Billingham, who's still winning under-18 tournaments, whilst in parallel playing as a professional.
Yeah, it's great to see. Phil's not happy where he's landed. He would like to have been a few rolls short and made the life a little bit easier, but he's got so much room to play in here, it shouldn't be a problem. He's overhit this one. I thought he'd play for both yellows in the top left corner, because then he's got room, because he was digging down. He had to avoid the red bottom right. I think the natural was going to take him close. So I just thought he would kill it a little bit more and not risk coming up this high. The problem is he's got a lot of angle here. If he comes too high again, then he's got a real problem. And he is going to come too high again. Quite often we get fooled by Phil Harrison and his antics out there, but I do believe him this time. He's not on this yellow.
Yes. He's been in perfect position a couple of times already and shaking his head, but this is not as played.
He still has a chance to make it, I think. I do think it's a doable shot to make this bottom left off the red. It's all in his eye line. I expect him to go close here. Yeah, he does. Beautiful shot.
Made to look easy, but glancing blow there. Didn't want to catch too much of the red on the way past. So a bit of head shaking along the way, but gets the job done.
How do we rank Phil's? You know, he's so highly regarded. We're 5 years in now of Phil Harrison with Ultimate Pool. He's won. Has he won 4 titles? Getting a nod of the head from my colleague here. I think it's 4.
Yeah, it is 4. He won the very first ever one, the Masters, back in 2021, and then there was quite a gap. It took him a couple of years before he got back in the winners' circle.
He couldn't win a match in a Pro Series event was his problem. But 4 titles in 5 years, he's you know, there's Chris Melling's now on 6, Tom's on 12 or 13, and there's a few on 4. But he's right in the mix. But do we expect more from Phil Harrison? I think we do. I would say that we would have expected him to have won at least a title a year.
Yeah, it's kind of gone in fits and starts, hasn't it? He won the first one, and we were like, yeah, that's as expected. Then had quite a lean period for a couple of years. I mean, wasn't that he had no results, but wasn't what we were expecting. Won a couple, and we were like, okay, that's back to where we were expecting. And then another fairly lean period. He's won the last man standing this year, but not a ranking title, of course.
Yeah. Down year, really, rankings-wise, even though he's currently 10th. Best runner semi-final for him.
I mean, what is impressive is the longevity at the top of the game without a break. I mean, we saw Chris Melling, phenomenal performance last night. He was saying in the interview with you afterwards he'd had some time away from English 8-ball pool before Ultimate Pool started, and then's come back into it. He's obviously played, famous for playing snooker, Chinese 8-ball, 9-ball. Yeah, he's played every cue sport. Phil Harrison's just kind of kept with it. He's just been at the top of the English game for that whole period.
He's one of the few that has only played English pool. He grew up playing it and he's never moved away from it. One thing I would say is if this was no match clock, no shot clock, and just completely open, I think he'd have won more than 4. I still think even 5 years in, he still hasn't fully adapted to the 15 seconds especially, but even at 30 I think he still struggles a little bit here and there, and the match clock obviously then catches him out.
Yeah, on some levels he's been a bit unlucky with the tournament formats. We were talking on our way to lunch yesterday about the fact the World Championships used to be played with a bigger table for the final stages. That was bad news for Phil, in my view. I think he would have won more world titles if it had been played on a 7-foot table the whole way through.
I think you and Barbara Taylor are trying to get me in trouble. She mentioned it yesterday and teed me up to say how bizarre I thought that was, and now you're doing it again. We'll leave it there.
The timing has been interesting because it's not his natural game, clearly play very quickly, but he has had moments. He's been responsible for some very dramatic buzzer beaters and 6 reds. At times he's adapted really well, but at times less so.
He's never made an effort for me to increase the... I think the players that have made the effort to increase their natural pace, and I think the one that's done it the most, obviously, is Christophe Lambert. They have less of an issue when you transition from 30 to 15. And Phil was, when it's at 30, he'll use 30 and he'll take his time. He does obviously have a lot of head shaking and you know, showing his emotion out there, which does take time away from his shot. And then when you feel like every match he plays, that transition from 30 to 15, the first 2 or 3 shots, he's all over the place. And sometimes he'll foul or he'll have to just get down and hit it because he doesn't catch it and doesn't deal with it as well.
Yeah, Christophe Lambert is a really good example of somebody that's not only adapted to it, but has actually turned it into a real positive.
Yeah.
I think he's a much better player for playing at that pace.
I agree. And we know Phil can play really, you know, on a 15 second because, like as you say, he's been responsible for some great moments. When he won that Masters, you know, running around the table, you know, he can do it. It's just, it catches him out. Once he settles in, he can do it.
Well, talking of catching him out, that's gone all wrong. Missed the double. As a result, the cue ball's taken a different line from what Kyle was expecting. It was never a perfect layout, but he was working his way through them fairly well. Fairly even lineup. Phil's obviously the higher ranked player and way the more decorated player, but Kyle Cope's a player on the up and up. Think of the young players, he's one of the most steady match players. Some can end up being blisteringly good potters and maybe don't have quite the same refinement, but Kyle's never really had that issue. He's been, from day one, he's had a very sort of assured manner about the table. It was an unfortunate first match for him on Friday when he lost to John Chambers, a good friend and somebody that he plays a lot with. I don't think either of them really relish that being their first match of the weekend. But he'll obviously be very pleased for John that he went on to get to that final last night. bit more head shaking, but this time he was broadly where he was expecting to be.
Get a head shake cam on him. Wears his heart on his sleeve.
Judge that well. He's happy to come up the table, take the plant first. This plant looks reasonably well set, so he should be able to play it in such a way that the second red doesn't move too far. He's always been regarded as someone that's very good with those kind of awkward shots. One of the best doublers of the ball. Seems to have an intuitive understanding of where the ball's going to go when he plays a shot like that. Not that that particular one had any difficulty, he just wanted to make sure that the second red didn't move. Satisfied himself with leaving distance. Fairly straight on this ball, so he's going to have to play with a bit of pace to get good position. Stopped in his tracks as the cue ball tracked towards the middle pocket, but pulls up short. And that miscue doesn't seem to have caused too much trouble for him.
Yeah, he's dealt with it well, hasn't he? He's that miscue aside, he's been brilliant this morning. 3-1, could have been 4-0. We have news in the Women's Pro Series. We'll be showing you all their quarterfinals at 12:30 today. And well, the battle for the number one is officially over, as 𝗍𝗵𝗃𝗵 has been eliminated first thing this morning. Match was held back from last night because she was in the final against 𝗪𝗁 Davies, where she came up short. And she's lost to a very good performance from Sophie Gibbs-Nichols this morning. Great win for Sophie. She'll now take on Becky Watkins in the quarterfinals. 𝗪𝗁 Davies had to play her match this morning. She got the victory over Casey Ramford-Norrie, who can be very proud of the weekend that she's had here in Wigan. But she bows out at the last 16. 𝗪𝗁 Davies will play Mary Talbot in the quarterfinals, and we will see that here on the main feature table. Barbara Taylor will take on Danielle Randall. Megan Proctor and Ashley Dinsmore are the other quarterfinals. That's your lineup, and they'll be on tables 1, 2, 3 and 4 at 12:30 or thereabouts.
There's been some great pool playing in that Women's Pro Series. Don't think 𝗍𝗵𝗃𝗵 was quite at her best. I'm a huge fan of her game, and as is pretty much everyone, including all of her competitors, but she maybe hasn't played an absolute A game this weekend. She struggled a little bit in the final against Kirsty Lee last night. She'll be disappointed though, good chance to pick up more silverware. The number one spot perhaps less concerned about, she has held that spot before, but still she was in good shape. Had she beaten Kirsty in the final last night, she would have, at least for one evening, have been provisional number one. In a way, the title that Phil has won this season, the last man standing, is probably not the most obvious one. That format, not the purest form of pool, even though it's one of the most entertaining. Perhaps not the one you'd have picked him to be the absolute master of, but played really well in that event. He'd obviously like to snap off a Pro Series as well. For all the head shaking, which is to be expected, he's played a very consistent game this morning. Just that one miscue.
Well, I was thinking just how sharp he looked at that net, but when he had the miscue, he was looking in the form to go and win a tournament.
These conditions will suit him. The Pro Series slightly longer format, so less of the playing with a short shot clock. Plus, this cloth is such a high quality cloth. You can play any shot and you can really hold on to the cue ball, which I think will play to his advantage because he has such good control. One shot to be played in this clearance, just how he gets shape on the yellow near the left centre. Gone with a fairly conservative option, just settled for leaving this at distance to guarantee a shot.
Distance with a good angle as well.
Controlled that well. In the middle pocket could just about have come into play, but just killed the pace on the cue ball. Referee looking on carefully as he leans over the red, but another frame goes the way of the farmer. 4-1 now in this race to 8. Not sure you'd say Kyle's done a whole lot wrong. Just that one missed double a couple of frames ago where he went in off in the process. That's the only frame he's really thrown away. The thing about Phil, you just know that it's not going to take much. He could turn up and be the best player in pretty much any tournament he plays in. And this isn't a whole long way away from his A game as well. Carries on this kind of form, he's going to be a match for most people. Doesn't maybe have quite as prolific a break and therefore doesn't have quite as many first visit chances as some of the really top breakers in the game, but seems to generally find a way. Looking to get something going off his own break here, as he's not had too much table time so far. He'll be more than happy with that. Reds and yellows pretty good. Easiest starter on yellows, but can just get through to a red to the corner as well. Calls for the extension to give himself a bit of extra time to plan the route map out. Straight after one of the more difficult balls, although he's looking to drop behind that, not cannon into it. Would love to have taken this ball that's on the left-hand side, and in fact, the fact he's not landed nicely on the pot, he's bailed out. That wouldn't have been everybody's choice from that position, but goes with the conservative option. What he was worried about there was that if he took the ball to the top right and continued with the clearance, it was then a bit hard to link up the one that he's ended up too close to.
This feels a big frame, doesn't it? Kyle loses it now. He's tracking a long way behind, especially now the opportunity is a good one.
Yeah, having had this chance with ball in hand particularly, would be very disappointed not to wrap it up. 4-2's okay, not perfect, but keeps him in it. 5-1 is starting to be quite a tough ask given the way Phil started the match. Nothing he can really do with the 8 ball. He's just going to have to settle for leaving that at this end of the table and come back for it later. Everything else fits together well enough. And now he can play the ball to the left centre and drop on the one up the rail that he tried to land on in the previous visit to the table. Nice natural angle to come over for the second yellow to the same pocket. Just wants to leave position that he can draw the cue ball back down the table.
I think he'll be okay with this. Just get back out. Looks well blocked the bottom right, but I think it's a pretty comfortable shot. No, it's not. He's playing all the way down. Thought he was just going to come back out to the left-hand side and play 8-ball off red. Amazing how much grip he got, how quickly. I didn't think he could pull down without touching the cushion like that.
No, this cloth is so reactive. He can get the spin on quicker. There's no, or not as much of an issue with the ball skidding. Good pot in the end. Left himself a bit to do with that 8-ball, but I'd be happy enough to have completed that clearance. So 4-2 to Phil Harrison. Still comfortable, but only one break of serve effectively.
Gives us an opportunity to go and see how Jimmy Croxton's getting on. He obviously created the big story of the second event of the weekend, Pro Series 8, by beating Tom Cousins in the first round. He's currently 4-2 up over Aidan Hughes.
Been really dedicating himself to the game. He's doing a lot of coaching at the moment, Jimmy. Seems to be helping his own game as well. Gone on the end of a fairly big scoreline against Chris Melling in Pro Series 7. But frankly, the way Melling played through that tournament, and indeed in that match itself, he was very fluent. Got 6 frames ahead of Jimmy without reply before Jimmy got going in that match. Even though he doesn't hit the break as hard as a lot of players, got quite a lot of action there, even though he's not going to love the result. Close to being a good break, but a couple of clusters formed, which is not going to make him keen to go for a clearance.
Messi's layout so far.
Ordinarily, this is the kind of game Phil kind of likes. He's very good at the tactical side. Like everybody, he's adapted though. Whereas 20 years ago, he's probably playing a lot more tactical frames. This rule set promotes being attacking unless the balls really demand otherwise. Wasn't the best played shot from Phil. He could have done without leaving Kyle the easy opener.
I think he wants Kyle to go. I think he's sort of teasing him a little bit. I think the percentages are on Phil's side here.
Did see in the last frame though, Kyle wasn't tempted by a clearance that other players might have gone for, so I don't know if he'll necessarily go here unless he's sure he has a route.
He was trying to get above this red so he could play it off the red bottom right, which deals with the problems on the table. It's a little bit short here. Much harder shot when it's not on your eye line. And he's not taking it on.
I agree with you though, in terms of the dynamic of the frame, sometimes you do want your opponent to have a swing at a messy layout like that. If nothing else, it may open things up for you. This is one of 4 last 16 matches in play at the moment. Jimmy Croxton, the match we saw a moment ago, 5-2 up on Aidan Hughes. Aaron Davis 3-2 to the good against Ryan Pisani. Ben Doyle ahead by the odd frame now against Eddie Barker. He leads by 4 frames to 3. Continuing the pattern that we've tended to see at quite a lot of Pro Series. It's a slightly different lineup. There are some players like Chris Melling who've had a deep run in the first event who are still batting in the second one. There's quite a few different names, such as the standard. It's very hard to go on deep runs in both events of the weekend.
Very different lineup other than Chris, isn't it? Josh Kane had a good run in the first event. That's about it. You look at the lineup. This is as wild as I've seen Kyle play for a little while. He's just been loose this morning. Normally a very, very controlled player and very clinical. Not really at it.
Felt like that good start from Phil has kind of set the tone. Did get given that second frame that Kyle wouldn't have been expecting after Phil miscued, but been more about Phil since then.
Easy loss of turn here. I'm just trying to work through whether how it's going to unfold. Gets the loss of turn. But the numbers are pretty even. Not sure how Kyle's going to earn an opportunity to go. I think I'd almost rather be Phil here.
Well, especially as Phil's the one with the lead, so he's going to be less inclined, you would imagine, to be rushing after anything.
I think he's going here. I think he was taking that on. That's not a control shot, just bumping it over. That's taking it on, then to play the yellow off the red, which would open it all up. Has he left an angle where Kyle can do something? The yellow's blocking everything, it looks like.
The fact that the yellows could be made into a clearance, as you say, does mean that he's got to make something happen. He's either going to get a good containing shot or look for something attacking.
Yeah, that's a nice shot. That is a nice shot. Gets another yellow off the table.
And that shows the difference. Whilst it may not look like it mattered that Phil missed that last yellow, the fact that his opponent's been able to play that extra loss of turn shot has changed the dynamics of the frame. He's played this slow. Seen that ball must have been, well, I was going to say off the cushion. It evidently wasn't off the cushion because he has fouled.
You saw his reaction. I think he maybe went over a bit of chalk or finger mark or something and just slightly turned on him, or he just got his line wrong. Needed the cue ball to hit the cushion. Kyle had a quick look. Could he play red off the red? But the yellow's in the way. Maybe could have done the cushion, but it probably wasn't quite on.
Don't always have to go for it just because you've got ball in hand. A nice chance there just to, he hadn't moved the red far, but it's just opened it up enough now. There's sort of left a gap behind it, which you wouldn't have thought existed from the first camera angle.
Touching ball. Could play another loss of turn here, but I'm not sure it really helps him.
Yeah, if that yellow pots along the bottom rail, you could have made a case for just getting down and potting it, just leaving the white frozen where the second yellow is. Not a shot that seems very natural. Only possible where there is a touching ball like that.
Yeah, I was thinking that, but then I was thinking if he does that, leaves the white there, then it's an easy should be a fairly easy safety for Phil. And then he hasn't gained much. What a pot that is. Phil must think this yellow passes through the bottom cushion. Or he just plays the... He can't play a loss of turn here, can he? He'd be leaving balls on.
Yellow either passes or you could get it over the pocket. There's a good chance now.
If he gets it over the pocket, you feel like he'd leave another easy loss of turn the other way round. That's why he didn't try to do it.
Not sure he's done quite enough there, has he?
Oh, hangs his head to the sky, which would suggest that red passes to bottom right, and therefore this is a really good chance for Carl to go and win the frame.
Played such a good first yellow, but then the second shot not so good.
That's another miss from Kyle, though.
Yeah, this'll concern him now. It's one thing to be frozen away from the table, but he's made a couple of quite bad potting errors already in this frame.
And in the match. He missed a few earlier on as well. Just not quite on it, which is a surprise.
Was he not early in the morning by the standards of normal working people? I guess does seem quite early to be starting a pool match. Maybe not quite with it yet.
Does the red go this time round? Phil's reaction says yes.
Well, this has not been a masterclass by either player the last couple of shots.
Neither player wants to win this frame. Let's call it a draw and move on.
And despite that, it's actually quite a significant frame in terms of the score 5-2 or 4-3.
It's huge.
Surely from this position, 𝗏𝗃𝗃's got to find his way over the line. 𝗏𝗃𝗃's potting errors have been the more obvious, but actually the two kind of careless safety errors that Phil's played have been really costly. Missed a double a couple of frames ago, but no mistake there. Finally, he has got the winning line in sight. A frame that he could easily have lost and slipped 3 behind. You can make a case for saying he's going to be the happier of the two players with the scoreline after that frame.
With a few errors tactically from Phil Harrison aside, I feel like he's played by far and away the better player, but 4-3 now. One thing that 𝗏𝗃𝗃 has really got in abundance is a great temperament, especially for a young up-and-coming player. He's very, very good at just being in the moment.
The fact that that frame took a long time means that the match clock has run right down. We've already talked about that so far, but only 13 minutes remaining on the match clock. Unfortunate, Kyle finding a couple of balls into the top left corner. What Phil doesn't want to do is get off to the start that he has in this match and then find himself at 4-all. He's going to feel like he's really failed to capitalise. We were talking earlier on about his love or otherwise of the 15-second shot clock. Going to find out in 3 minutes' time how he's feeling about it today.
When he was rolling them in earlier on, he had the miscue. I was thinking that he's just going to, he's got potential just to fly in this match. I was thinking we could get the second match on pretty quick, but the time has just disappeared.
Yes, it was that last frame, wasn't it? It just kind of went on, and in the background the clock carried on, of course. And this clearance has now become quite big. He really doesn't want to end up back on level terms after he's got off to such a good start. It's feeling a bit more laboured than it did earlier as well. Spending a bit more time coming around the table. He's never shy to do that, but it's definitely slowed down.
He's caught between two shots here. He can't make his mind up. That's what's taking the time on this one.
He's got to take the one to the left centre, hasn't he? Seems like he's landed on it about as well as he's ever going to.
Yeah, agreed. One way or another, you've got to take that one. You should be able to play on red to right centre or red at the bottom of the table. Yeah, he was never going to get better on it, was he? I suppose he was tempted to take the one to top right. You can see what he was thinking there. If he takes the one to top right and pulls back and he gets to the same position, then he's better off for it.
Just one of those ones you can end up 2 inches from that position, and Roux doing it. If he ends up high here, which he has done, that's pretty perfect.
Where's he putting the 8 ball? Not much room to land on it.
Play the cannon into the yellow for right centre.
Certainly from that angle he can. He's looking at going past it. That's not the biggest gap. But he's found it. Danger of that shot was this kind of grazing cannon, rather than if he plays the cannon full ball, yes, but if he gets the graze, then he blocks himself. But then if he gets it to the other side, he won't be on the 8 ball either. So in the end, he played the biggest margin of error and landed beautifully in that gap. So a nice finish for Phil. Back a couple in front.
Just over 10 minutes remaining on the match clock, so after the initial break off, we're going to see the 15-second shot clock in play. Different situation, of course, when you're ahead. He'll be much happier to be going into that last 10 minutes with a 2-frame cushion than on level terms.
A reminder of what we've got coming up through the course of today. We'll see another round of the last 16. Last night's champion, Chris Melling, against one of the players of the year in John McAllister. That is box office last 16 matchup, that really is. And then we're going to see a quarter-final from the Women's Pro Series 8, Kirsley Davies versus Mary Todd. But we'll see all 4 quarter-finals across our 4 tables, TV tables. We'll be back for action from the quarter-finals from the Pro Series. Take a little break, but we'll be back tonight for semis, final, next gen final, women's final as well. Plus we'll be keeping an eye on all the other tournaments that are going on as Phil hits an absolutely sledgehammer break.
I was walking around the other tournament room, the one with 68 tables in just next door from this one last night, where some of the next gen matches were going on. I was struck not only by the quality of the play, but just how young some of the players are.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got some teenagers coming through doing amazing things, but there were some
really young
people that were well under 10 that were playing to really quite a high standard.
Well, my understanding is the next gen is selling really well for next year as well. I think they're going to be even more here next year's events. All events are open for signing up for. Follow Ultimate Pool socials, get yourself involved. Everything's going to be expanded, bigger and better. more challengers, more next gen, more seniors. Possibly a rumour of more pros, but that's TBC. I've not heard anything conclusive.
Really fun atmosphere as well in the venue last night. Everybody playing in the next gen looked to be enjoying themselves, and some of the challenger events later on. I mean, it's just a crazy environment when you go into a room where there's nearly 70 tables. And nicely spread out as well. It was not like they're crammed in. There's plenty of room to walk between them, which means there's also plenty of room for your friends and family to crowd round and watch your games.
It's our first sign of seeing Phil on the 15 seconds, and you can tell he was just a little frantic.
He's definitely not got it to the point where he looks smooth, has he? Even when he's playing really well at the 15 seconds, it does look a bit rushed. He's not going to mind though if he carries on potting the balls. Phil has always looked way the most likely winner of this match, but there was that point when Kyle was coming back. You wondered if it was one of those ones where Kyle had kind of weathered the storm and not really been part of it, whether he could just nick a match that he shouldn't really have been in. Phil's done the right thing though. He's knuckled down since then.
The response from getting pegged back to one frame has been quite impressive, and he's dealt with the first visit at 15 seconds of shot really well.
Time still on the clock for Kyle, but right now he's not really getting enough chances that it's easy to see where 3 in a row is coming from. Phil's broken pretty well in this match. That's been one of the cornerstones of the lead. Kyle is going to have 2 of the next 3 breaks, so 2/3 of it is in his own hands. If he could find a couple of clearances, maybe he can get something from his opponent on the middle break.
Chris Melling's been in this situation this weekend and was able to get it done with half the time on the clock that Kyle's got. But he was, at that point, making ball off his break. Kyle hasn't. That could be the end for him.
Been kind of tame match so far for Kyle. Played a few good shots, but he's missed a couple of balls. Hasn't broken as well as he can. Or at least hasn't had the results that he might have hoped for. Quite a big target there, but playing with too much pace. Cue ball through slightly wide, which is why he's missed everything. Can't carry on with the clearance from here, so develop this yellow and bail out. Or in fact, not develop the yellow. Ordinarily, the safety part of Phil's game is the best feature today. His potting's been quite good, his breaking's been quite good, but safety game's actually been a bit erratic. He's played a couple of fairly nothing containing shots where he's left Kyle a straight pot at something.
Probably knew that was going to happen if he got the full ball. He was left himself a tough next shot and possibly tied the red up at the bottom. It looks like there's just enough to pot it, but can he get to it? He can get to it now.
How's his luck with the other ball? Suited him to play that because he wasn't loving the pot at the top of the table anyway, plus that got him on the ball that would have been hard to land on. Well, that's a better shot.
Just can't get control here. Can't get control. I think he's got the gap. He has.
Well, that's a result.
But he's still thin. He's still not got perfect shape here. And he has now. He has now. Phil's reaction says it all.
I mean, he played a couple of good shots there. That plant was good, but yeah, did have a couple of nudges that could have turned out different. That's what he needed to do, though. That's the first of the 3 frames he's got to get back. Next one's going to be Phil's break. So if Phil just carries on doing what he's been doing, of potting a ball off the break.
I think Carl knows he had a couple of nudges there as well. His reaction's fantastic.
Well, finding that gap was such a result, and then having it thin in a way that he was able to bump fairly full into the other red. That could have turned out quite different. Just over 5 minutes remaining, so time enough for the 2 frames. Really wants his opponent to come up dry or going off here. Phil's got to look at the positive side of this. It's in his hands. Doesn't want to be thinking anything about going dry or letting his opponent to the table. Just has to do what he can do. The run of balls off the break continues for Harrison.
Hitting it sweet though. Really getting good pop into it. Good control.
Not quite at the stage where he can be thinking about hanging on to this lead. If he could get this clearance, then that is a lead he can very much defend. That could really do with one more frame.
This means you can put the focus here on making the break finish, and he should. This is a beautiful layout. Once again, caught out by the 15 seconds a shot. You can always see that moment where he realises he's up against it. A player that absolutely loves to look at both sides of the... Here we go again. He's going to be short again.
One thing you can't do with 15 seconds is be stranded on the wrong side of the table. If you go around to look at an angle, you just don't have time to get back. It's really just to steady himself. There's a handful of shots where it's useful to see the other side, but generally I don't find it that useful in terms of actually finding the line. It's more just taking a moment to compose yourself.
And that's why for me it's important to get into the habit of doing it, whether you're on a shot clock or not. Change your pace, change your natural instinct. Here he goes again, he could get caught out.
Yeah, this isn't a shot where there's a whole lot to think about. He's got to just focus on the pot.
He just wanted a quick glance, didn't he? Do you want to go forward a couple of inches, stop it dead, or come back a couple of inches? That sort of thing, it makes sense. But you don't really have time to do it at 15 seconds a shot.
Good clearance though, and this is the one he needed, because a 7-4 lead with just over 3 minutes remaining is big.
Yeah, now this is a deeper hole than the one that Chris Melling got himself out of earlier on this weekend, as we can go and have a look at what's happening on table 2. That is Eddie Barker, the over 50s world champion, hanging in there. He's been behind all the way here against Ben Doyle. The Irishman is a couple of frames away from winning the match. He's at the table with a chance to tie it up.
Unbelievable run at the World Championships. World Team Champion, over 50s World Champion. Semi-finals of the main singles event as well.
Eddie's another player I think could benefit from increasing his natural pace. Playing on a 45-second shot clock on the outside tables. I'm not entirely sure why they play on a different shot clock on the outside tables to the main table. That's a question for 𝗏𝗏𝗃 and the tournament directors. I'm sure there's a reason.
Yeah, I mean, the explanation is that the 45 is the standard timing in the rules, and they only play shorter where there's a visual cue of having the TV screens around. But yeah, I agree, it's a bit of an unsatisfactory outcome.
They do have a visual cue, it's worth pointing out, on the other tables, on the tables 2, 3 and 4. It's just not as many, not the 10 screens you have here on the main table.
Yeah, it's one screen that the referee is holding, which I suppose, if you're being charitable to the players, when you're down on a shot, it's a pain to have to look round. But
get the audio view cues as well.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, it's an odd situation, but it sort of comes down to staffing as well. It's difficult to, you can have all these main arena setups, but you need people to do the timing. I think for Eddie,
my thing is though that the timers are there anyway. So why anyway, there'll be a reason. We shouldn't go into it too much because Phil Harrison's on with a chance to win the match, and he has been good value for winning this match. Just a couple of frames in the middle and a big miscue. Other than that, he's been by far and away the better player.
Yeah, he'll be happy with this. This is a good result for a last 16 match. There's room for improvement, but generally he's been really pretty good. See him speeding up markedly now as he approaches the winning line. No pressure because of the time.
He certainly looks to be in the form where he can go on and win this tournament, and he books his place in the quarterfinals, the first man into the quarterfinals. In fact, he wasn't the first man into the quarterfinals because Jimmy Croxton beat him by a couple of seconds. Jimmy Croxton beat Aidan Hughes 8-4. Phil Harrison has beaten 𝗘𝗃𝗃𝗏 by the same scoreline. Aaron Davies is 5-3 up over 𝗨𝗃𝗀𝗃, and Ben Doyle is 6-5 up over Eddie Barker. The winner of that match will play Phil Harrison in the quarterfinals in a couple of hours' time. We will hear from Phil Harrison in a couple of minutes' time, and we'll be back, of course. Chris Melling is on the way. Last night's champion is back in action here at the last 16 of Pro Series 8.